So that was another great showdown between Indiana and Oregon State. Of course, just one place apart at last year's NCAA championships. Again, that time Indiana on the right side of it. And they held it again here at the Big Ten Invite. So more to come, I think, between these two great rivals, Indiana and Oregon State, next time we see them meet. Hard to believe that that was just the 2v8s. We still have another round of racing between this great slate of racers, Indiana, Oregon State, Michigan State, Notre Dame, and Ohio State. This will be the women's varsity 8. And we have a start here in our final race for this slate of racers. Great start that we're seeing across all 5 boats. It is, again, I think, going to go to Oregon State in lane number 2, the quickest off the line. Beavers have been really, really fast across all of these boat classes so far in this round of racing, but it looks like they're being tracked very closely, again, by Indiana down in lane number 1. Maybe just Michigan State missing out by about a deck with the rest of the field, and Notre Dame dropping back as well in these early strokes. Ohio State doing what they can just to match the speed from across the racecourse over in lane number 5.
Yeah, I think that Ohio State really getting out of the gates here a little quicker than anyone. Of course, pretty early stages on, but I'm going to give them probably the early leader, maybe by about a foot right now over Indiana as your early leader, but pretty early to tell.
Yeah, so I think, again, like we saw in that second varsity 8, Indiana just able to manage that transition between those high sprint strokes off the start into that sustainable base rhythm. They're handling that transition a little bit better than their competitors from Oregon State. So it's allowing them just to start to move a little bit earlier in the race than even we saw in that 2V. Oregon State doing the best with that special teams component, just getting the boat up and out of the blocks as fast as possible. So thinking there's just a ton of power, a ton of anaerobic athletes in this Oregon State boat, but here we're seeing a little bit more of that aerobic prowess maybe coming through in this Indiana crew at the bottom of your picture. They're striding out to just about 2/3 of a boat length now over the Beavers.
All right, so very different strategy than we saw in the previous race with Indiana just putting it all out on the table very early on. So just past the first 500, Indiana as your leader is my guess, although we're going to have to take a look at Ohio State on the far side because they were definitely out in front as well. But with the previous boats, we had Oregon State well out in front, but this time we're seeing them with a bit of a deficit to that Indiana crew. So a little bit of a turnaround here. And yeah, indeed, it is Ohio State and Indiana. Those are your 2 boats that are out in front. Oregon State just a little bit back by about 6 to 7 seats to both of those boats. Ohio State and Indiana almost dead level at this point. And then Oregon State in third with a bit of open water between themselves and Michigan State. Michigan State leading Notre Dame by about 1 seat of open water.
So notably, this is a nice turnaround for that Michigan State program. We've seen them kind of at the back of the pack with these other races in this slate. So having this varsity 8 do one better than some of the other boats in this field, it's got to feel good, just making sure that they can kind of move themselves up as we move through the program. That was a nice shot of our crew from Ohio State, just seeing what they can do to track their competitors from Indiana all the way across the race course. Have they gotten their bow ball out in front? We get a little bit of the parallax just because of the angle of the drone here, so it might be awfully close between these crews, and it's really hard to tell which of the 2 of them might actually have their bow ball out in front, but they are definitely pushing the pace in this women's varsity 8. The Hoosiers of Indiana and the Buckeyes of Ohio State really pushing the pace and leading the way here ahead of Oregon State. It does look like the Beavers are going to have to come up with a response now in this middle part of the race if they want to stay in the conversation with these 2 Big Ten teams.
Based on what we know about the Buckeyes, I'm going to put my bets on lane 5 right now for coming into this second half of this race course. We know that they can turn on the jets, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen in this third 500. So keep your eye on lane 5 because I think they have what it takes to really kind of make a move. And that coxswain's going to take a look across her port side. She's going to take a look at that Indiana boat and say, okay, guys, let's go. This is where we have to make it happen.
Well, I think we're seeing a targeted move here from Oregon State because it does look like they are making an impact on this Indiana crew off to their right. Are they down to just a 3-seat deficit now for the Beavers over this leading crew from Indiana? I think Ohio State might be starting to row away with it. I think you've called it, Adrian. I think they've launched their attack in that Buckeye crew as Oregon State now is
Battery level is
with
low.
Indiana.
Aircraft will return to the home point in 10 seconds.
Crews are awfully close over on the left side of your picture, but we can't get a good sense of exactly what the margin is or how much overlap might even be remaining between our trailing 2 crews from Oregon State and Indiana against, I think, our new race leaders, Ohio State.
All right, and I've got Ohio State pretty patient there in lane 5.
Max altitude reached.
They've got to be confident in it. They've got to be confident in their fitness and in their technique. I've got them clocked at 36 strokes a minute, so nothing too crazy. I've got Indiana a little bit higher at 37, but man, look at this lead now that Ohio has developed just within that third 500. They're coming up to the final 500 strokes, but man, what a great race here by Ohio State. They've demonstrated a lot of patience and confidence throughout this race. In this first V, this is going to be a great performance here by the Buckeyes. If they can hold on and hold off Indiana, wow.
Well, this has been a huge move over the last 500 meters or so from Oregon State. They have punched the gas and moved right back through Indiana after losing out on the lead. A quick start from the Beavers. Indiana turned it around, and now it's being turned around again by this very feisty Oregon State crew, and seeing if they can't go right along now with our race leaders on the far side of the course from Ohio State. They are incrementally just creeping now on this really fast finishing crew from Ohio State. Are they going to be able to close this gap, Adrian? It's down to the last few strokes here.
What a turnaround for the Beavers. This is a great race for them. I know that they started down probably not where they wanted to be within that first 500, first 1,000, but man, did they turn on the gas and do a turnaround here. Great race. State moving themselves into that second place position ahead of the Hoosiers. Indiana in third. Open water back to them. It's going to be Michigan State, the Spartans, open water ahead of Notre Dame.
Well, that was really interesting because, I've been talking about how difficult it can be to turn the margins in these big boats, these 8s. It's such a huge effort to turn over a whole boat length or more. And, we saw Ohio State do it from on the far side over in lane 5. They were down off the start and they turned it into a whole boat length advantage. And then we saw it happen again on the near side. Oregon State lost nearly a full boat length to Indiana in the middle of the race course. They finished a boat length ahead. So this is some really impressive stuff we're seeing from some of these athletes. That special teams component of the sprint, it's a game changer, and it makes it so much fun for us to watch.
That was one of those races that felt really long. Like, for some reason, there was so much that happened it's a short race. It goes by really quickly, but for some reason, it felt like there was a lot of things that happened.
Well, there are a lot of stories to tell in that race because you got to keep track of who's on the move, when they're launching their attack, and whether or not it's working. And it made it just a brilliant race for us to commentate.
Absolutely. But again, like I said in the previous race, this event, it's going to be pivotal for Ohio State. I do also think that for Oregon State, what a statement for them to be able to come out and compete against some of the strongest teams in the nation. It really bodes well for them as they come up to their championship event and the WCCs in a couple of weeks, which you will be here for. And here we go. Unofficial finish times that left